give her some. Oh yeah, I can hear her blow off. This is a review, so you know I don't want to be like it's a great bike, it rides real good, this, that, and the other, have a great day, subscribe. You know, we want to get you all the information we can. Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna get you a little bit of data. If you're wondering why there's a turbo V-Rod in the background, it's all me, and that's why we're selling this bike and filming that video as well right now. But right now, oh, by the way, if you think that's savage and sick, subscribe, like my video, join the movement, become part of the J-Mob, wheelman style. I'm gonna do a little review on what in the world is that, a mole cricket? Look at this guy. All right, anyway, I'm gonna shoot a review. It's going to be more of an informational situation, not really like a ride review, which is typically 98% of what you would see if you looked up a review for this bike. I'm not going to ride it because the buyer is like 30 minutes out right now to pick this thing up and give me some of my money back from buying the V-Rod 3 days ago. So I will not be riding the bike in this review. If you want to see it ridden, I've got the How Fast Is This Bike, and I've got several other videos, moto vlogs on this particular bike. If you want to go watch those, I will throw them up in the end screen. That'll situate that. I'm sorry if you're upset about the fact that I won't ride it in this video. I'm going to respect the buyer, and I'm not going to do that because there's too many liabilities and anomalies to ruin today's sale if something were to happen from another rider, another driver, or just any freak of nature accident. Let's cover the things that you need to know about a Harley Nightster Sportster. This is going to cover the ranges from like 07, which is the first EPA disaster bike. Those things are just a nightmare if they have upgrades on them. I've already had an 07 Nightster and it had EPA problems. It would buck and pop. At just moderate cruising, like going 10 miles an hour through your neighborhood with like less, in between 1 to 5% throttle only, it would hesitate. The 07 would, because it had a Screaming Eagle tuner on it. It may have not have been dyno tuned, I don't know. But I've had a lot of people come onto my videos over that hesitation video from the Screaming Eagle tuner stuff that's in prior videos from another Nightster, saying that they had their bike fully dyno tuned and it didn't change a thing. The things you need to worry about right off rip are slow starts. If you have this bike, if you want to start it up every time with no problem, you need to have the bike in first gear. You need to pull the clutch lever back so you're not locked in the actual gear before you start it. You need to move the bike back and forth. A lot society often overlooks or doesn't know about the fact that with these bikes, your clutch assembly or clutches are actually submerged in the drivetrain in drivetrain fluid. So it is notorious that these clutches will kind of bond together and stick from the fluid just from sitting for an hour or two or weeks or months at a time, or for a whole down season when it's winter or whatever have you. In order to start these bikes up without draining your battery or just getting the slow start problem, you should really break those loose. Roll the bike back and forth with your clutch pulled. That way you're basically at the discretion of the clutches and you're not trying to push it back and forth without the clutch lever pulled in, locking yourself in gear, not being able to roll it. So when this thing's in first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, just sitting still like right now, you pull the clutch lever and you can roll it back and forth, but it's going to feel like it's locked into place because these clutches stick together 24/7. I have fixed that problem. You can start this up right now with it just sitting with the clutches kind of stuck together, which is, again, a notorious issue that these bikes deal with. I'm guessing Harley is situated by now. I don't know, but you're going to pay a lot of money to get those newer bikes, 2012 and up. You're going to probably finance a Harley from Harley Davidson unless you buy it outright from somebody else. Biggest issue that actually got rid of hesitation was the notorious ground wire from the battery to the chassis. And I'm literally talking like there's a nut. You see that nut right in there? It's not the easiest thing to get to, but I managed to do it without having a world of problems by separating the dry sump oil lines. That's what these lines are. This is your oil tank, and this is how they feed down in, and it comes back up, blah, 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 blah. You can get to it there. I've done it with 2 wrenches. You also have way better access from right here. It didn't even look corroded. I would call it weathering. You would look at it when you're trying to solve this problem after going on the forums and reading lots of information, and you would think, oh, that's not corroded. That's what mine looked like. I ended up scraping all that off and getting it clean. The chassis and the actual tab on the wire that connects to the chassis, I cleaned all that up, and it got rid of all my hesitation problems as far as starting the bike. Because before, with corrosion or weathering on there, it would literally be killing AGM batteries at like a Tom Thumb or whatever, before I knew about the issue, and I just kept trying to start it, wondering what the hell was going on. I also did the starter contacts. I pretty much went through every portion of the bike and left the ground cable for last because it looked like the hardest thing to get done. So on this bike as well, it can be intimidating to even attempt to do starter contacts. A lot of people claim you have to take the starter out. You do not. I did not. I just took this little mating bracket for these oil lines away so you can spread the lines apart, and undid all the screws myself on the back side of the starter cap. And I was able to do the starter halfway rebuild as it's mounted right here, right now. And there's also some video of that on my channel as well. Everything I've done to this bike is already on my channel, including the slow start fix if you want to go check those out. 3 bolts, I took that cap off. There was pitching on my starter contacts and my leads that connect together and start the starting action when you hit the start button. And I resurfaced them all, even though a friend was like, don't do that. You might create unlevel surface contact by just resurfacing your contacts. It can be a liability. It did not end up being one at all. It ended up actually changing nothing, even though I cleaned off the starter contacts, the arc pitching, and blah, blah, blah. That was easier to get to, in my opinion, than the ground cable, so I did that as well. Changed nothing, because I also wanted to troubleshoot and see if these types of things were actually going to solve the problem. In addition to all that, the rocker gaskets, which are commonly known as valve cover gaskets to me on cars, are commonly known to leak because Harley Davidson were the geniuses that either had these things built in stinking China, or they built them on purpose with paper gaskets like a-holes for whatever reason. So these bikes are notorious for leaking a little bit from here and getting oil on the bolt and on your little breathers for the cylinder head. The back's not much of the issue. It's more like the front. I've already done the rocker gaskets on this bike. So that is just a little fruit for thought for you. If you do see oil residue like in these regions on the bolt or on the cylinder head, that's more than likely what that is, because they're paper gaskets, or the gaskets have failed, cracked, or dry rotted. And I ended up putting Cometic brand metal gaskets in to replace that and solve it with some real parts, some parts that should be ideal to put on the stinking thing with an engine that's not coolant cooled, it's just air cooled. But I think Harley sometimes just engineers these things that cost shell money and bring y'all back into the shop, because I've never had this thing worked on at Harley and probably would have broken my wallet in half if I did. Big thing to consider there. Big thing to notoriously happen. You can catch videos of how to do the rocker gaskets all over YouTube. There's multiple ways of doing it, from pulling your spark plugs, rotating the motor and gear so that you get it off the compression cycle, and your valve cover gasket situation will come off with this top metal assembly, the second metal assembly, and then there's bolts and gaskets in there, blah, blah, blah. Won't cover that here, but we're going to cover that in general. These things on a battery tender, if you can afford a battery tender for like 30 bucks, keep them on there. You could use as much juice with these bikes as possible, just because it will help you in the future with getting the bike started up, especially if you haven't done your maintenance with, you know, like the starter contacts or the ground cable that I freshened up. Not the most stable bike with the type of riding that I've done often. Wide open throttles, a little sketchy. It's not like a deal breaker. It's not unheard of. I'm not saying the Harley Davidson, this model Sportster Nightster, is the only bike that does it. There's probably a lot out there. Probably has a lot to do with the smaller tire and wheel size in the rear, how light the bike is, how nimble and light it is overall, which is another reason why I actually like these bikes. They're very small, very manageable, very light bikes, great starter bikes for a lot of people that are squids, so to speak. Had to get my coffee and pass the turbo V-Rod on the way out. Yeah, look at it flexing. Anyway, could be a more stable bike. Not a huge thing I'm a fan of. I actually had just acquired a turbocharger for this bike and was about to start the series of boosting it before I actually got the turbo V-Rod. Another reason why I don't mind getting rid of this and I'm not going to boost with this bike and selling it to get my money back for the V-Rod is just because with the handling and stability concerns on the road that I'm not a fan of, adding a turbo to this bike would only enhance that problem and make it worse given the scenario. And when you have your own turbo and you're not buying a full-on kit, you're not going to get a lot of the parts you would need. Like, if I ran this thing on 7 pounds of boost, I would more than likely need bigger injectors additionally, which you'll have to buy. I would probably need to get a different style of clutch, Barnett clutch, or maybe just clutch springs from Barnett, in order to hold all the power so we don't end up blowing through the clutch, because I don't really think these clutches are designed and meant to take 7 pounds of boost versus a V-Rod. That's stock clutch may handle it better. Another tune, and just amongst other things, I just wasn't really head over heels about doing the turbo. It was more of a ploy to get everybody else interested, do something fun with the bike, make it faster. Which guy doesn't want to make his bike faster? Some views, and share the experience with other people, because with the turbo that I got, which is a stock turbo from like a Mini Cooper, it's basically like a twin scroll T25, which I like that it was twin scroll. You don't really see that on smaller turbos. With buying the right parts, exhaust flanges that bolt right into the head, it would have been a way to boost this bike for under $1,000. Hold on, got a phone call. A lot of the reason why I like the Nightster is you can acquire them cheap. They are very low maintenance. They don't have a radiator. They don't have coolant. And the state of Florida, you actually don't have to insure motorcycles. That's what started my career in a motorcycle in the first place. So you can literally operate a Nightster each month if you own it off like 70 bucks in gas. I mean, with the peanut tank, which is this version, and then the Sportsters come with a wider, more bubblish tank that are not called a peanut tank, you don't really get a whole lot of mileage out of it. If I ride it hard and I ride it a good bit throughout the week, I'll probably end up putting gas in it every 2 days. But when you're talking $7 prior to Corona, and with gas prices now, it's probably anywhere from $4.10 up to like $6.20 to fill it up with gas. And that's premium, because if you own the stinking bike or you finance it, don't put regular gas in these bikes, guys. Give it some good octane. Give it the best octane you can, because Lord knows if you get 91 at the pump, it probably don't even test out at 91 octane. Very comfortable. A lot of stuff on these bikes is cheap. Like this seat looks savage. It's cool. It's spiffy. This seat only cost me 60 bucks off eBay. I would not give it back for the world. This bike came on a solo seat, which I hated. My butt moved around a lot. It didn't cup it or back my butt for stability like I wanted at all. That seat is in there. It's about worth burning in a fire. You know, the capitalization parts are kind of expensive, like the exhaust. I don't believe that exhaust is worth $500, and that's what Vance Hines short shots will cost you. They have some nice pieces that go with it, like the heat cover and all that stuff, but it really doesn't make a difference. If you put a bare leg on this fucker after you've rode for 25 minutes, you're gonna feel it. So those really don't do a whole lot. I've seen people take these shields off and just heat wrap it. I've seen people heat wrap around the whole thing. Just depends on how much fancy is. The Roland intake is cut from billet. I don't believe it's a $550 unit, but I wouldn't give it back. And I'm not knocking Roland Industries at all. They're great parts. They really set off the bike with the paint scheme, blah, blah, blah. These bikes are notorious from having a lot of draw in general from multiple aspects, whether it's starting up or just when the bike is running. These headlights get hot as hell and they drain a lot of power. If you have one of these bikes, cough out the 20 or 30 bucks and get yourself an LED Daymaker headlight. There's several Halo style headlights on eBay. There's literally so many LED light draw, less amp drawing headlights out there in the market you can buy. They're very easy to install and a must in my opinion. But the heat is a big thing. The visibility would be better, and this one projects yellow onto the ground versus like an LED would project more of a clean, more spiffy light. I didn't get around to doing that, but I almost got one, so make sure you look into that as well. If you have issues with your bikes, make sure you just check your plugs and stuff. After I did the starter, after I did the ground cable, I started up and I had a miss from hell. It was running on one cylinder. And that's because my coil plug back here, that connects to the coil obviously, the locker, like this locker right here, that clips it on, this little arm right here that clips it into place and lets it chill, it broke off. So I literally have the coil pack plug zip tied right now because I band-aided it and I just never got around to it. I don't even think I've ridden this bike in town since I fixed it. I've just started it up and fiddle-diddled with it here and there. But just some food for thought. Oh, what else can I cover? The Vance Hines now, if those are out of your budget range, you can get another set that are knockoffs off eBay. The last I saw, I think they were like 198 bucks for non-Vance Hines short shot style pipes, which are basically a replica of these, but I've heard about slight fitment issues. They don't come with the hardware. Some of them don't even come with the outer heat shield, but something to consider. A lot of people don't have $500 to spend on some pipes, and I totally get that because I'm just as cheap as they would be if they had to be. I'm all about budgeting. I'm all about saving every penny where I can, when I can. The stability under wide open throttle could be better, but this bike is already tuned, so when I'm at wide open throttle, I can run this thing up to 7,000 RPMs rev limit, which is where we take it in the video of how fast this bike is. Could be more stable, but for the fact that I have $35 in this bike, you really can't scrutinize much about it. It's a great bike. It's beautiful. It's gangster as hell. And I wouldn't take it back. And, you know, I'm not complaining at all. I'm just trying to give you all of my experience and what I know about it, because this is a review. So, you know, I don't want to be like, it's a great bike, it rides real good, this, that, and the other, have a great day, subscribe. You know, we want to get you all the information we can. Brakes have been good, you know, no problems really other than that. It's got a tank rise on it. For whatever reason, my neutral indicator is broken, so when I go into neutral, it does not indicate on the tachometer. I don't care, it's not a deal breaker. I haven't changed the indicator out. I think the indicator is somewhere in here. You can get them offline for like 10 bucks, wire it in, and you should have your neutral light come on when you're in neutral. Mine doesn't. I don't think that's an epidemic. I've never seen that with any other bike, but I have seen videos of it, and that being a thing on YouTube, obviously. One of the other things, like, it's kind of annoying is once you've added a power commander and an auto tuner, just the wiring in general just becomes a mess. There's really not very many places on this type of bike to conceal wiring. Like, this is heavily consolidated right here as it is versus what the Nest was before I started the ground cable maintenance and the starter maintenance and blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing to consider. I mean, that's my painter's tape because my little arm thingy, I think the arm thing is actually on now. Yes, I don't know why. Let's go ahead and take that off since the new owner's en route. Oh, that's right. I had the painter's tape on here to kind of hold the plugs on. Hold on. Yeah, I have that there because my little receiver for those plugs is kind of broken off. Thing, I am editing the video right now, but I mentioned killing AGM batteries and keeping them on a tender. I've already put a lithium ion battery straight from Harley Davidson on this bike, and I had issues with it being drawn down one time during me trying to fix the issues I mentioned in the video before putting after putting the lithium on. And they warrantied it out, no problem. Like, just like that. They were super cool about it. Even admit that they don't test it. Even though they told you when you buy it, we do test it to make sure it's bad before we'll give you a new one. The guy's like, we don't have a way to test it. If you say it's bad and we check the button and it's not 3 bars, here you go. And I'm like, cool. So I like the lithium ion because unlike an AGM, it recycles, and it recycles harder. So with an AGM, you start it a few times, a few more times, it'll start diluting and diluting, and then it's gone. Click, 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 your battery's gone. You'll be lucky if it doesn't die right then and there, but you'll definitely need a charge if it doesn't die. And you've also made it weaker at heart because an AGM, they don't always go back to 100% no matter how much you charge them unless you keep it on a tender religiously. A lithium ion, you don't have to do that. I can leave an AGM battery in the bike over the winter's season without a tender. It's going to cost you. It's going to be diluted. It's going to be weak when you go to hit it again unless you tendered it. With a lithium ion, it doesn't do that. I can leave it for an entire winter season. It will not dilute a lithium ion. If you attempt to start the bike and bail early and don't start it, the lithium ion will recycle itself and start harder the second time around. It won't do that 20 times in a row, but I've managed to do the harder recycle 3 to 5 times just to test it out and test this lithium ion technology. And hands down, it's a worthy investment, especially on a Nightster or a Sportster. Again, this video is primarily for the 1200s, but a lot of this information will probably be relevant for the 883 series, 883cc bike. So I just want to throw it in there. I have a lithium ion, and that lithium ion also has a test button on it that will show you the voltage on it. Unlike any AGM garbage battery you're probably going to have, unless you paid like $400 for it, which as crappy as AGM technology is, they're not worth $400. I don't care if it's got 7,000 cranking amps. It's still an AGM battery, which I can't stand. Especially with the Nightster, it's a very small battery versus a lot of the AGMs you could put on other bikes. My V-Rod battery is a lot bigger than the battery that goes on the Nightster, but it's an AGM on the V-Rod, but I don't care because it starts it over like an Al Capone Tommy gun. Food for thought, back to the video. The guy's pretty close. He should be here any moment now. I really don't think there's a whole lot else I can cover without riding the bike, which riding the bike on this moto vlog isn't going to make a night and day difference from the quality of the video or getting any information you want, need, or looking for. I wish it had RPM, but versus any other Harley, these bikes have way more options for different speedo setups that will literally bolt right here. I think Revzilla has a brand that has like a tack that replaces this and makes it more sleek and cuts it off from here and has like digital RPM readout and stuff like that, which is really cool. So The variations for parts in the aftermarket economy for this is way better than Fat Boys, Rocker C's, or all those other bikes. And if you're leaving the Nightster and going up to a more expensive bike, you better believe all those types of add-ons are going to be way more expensive and just pure capitalism. So that's something cool. I can't remember what the brand of that tachometer is, but some of them are dope as hell. But I think they run anywhere from like 150 and up, so they can be pricey, but to me, a worthy investment, because they will overall bring the view of the bike way up, and it's just cooler than just a speedometer with no RPM readout and like an indicator that doesn't work, your blinkers and your oil light, blah 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 blah. I think that's about it. I'm thinking if I can cover anything else, I'll just hit it in the description, but I really can't think of a whole lot else. So the new buyer's about to be here shortly, and I guess we'll film the rest of that video and probably leave it off there. Leave it off there. I hope this answers some questions for you. If you got here, please like, please subscribe, help us get out there, help the channel move forward, and obviously give us some due diligence for the information we brought you and the fact that we went out of our way to make you the video, edit the video, make sure the video is not 30 minutes long of raw footage, cut it down, add the intro and the music. Make sure you support us, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Good luck with your purchase, or good luck with your bike. If you have any questions, comment down below. Be happy to help. Bye-bye.